Finally, it is completely done. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog for Monday, February the 25th, 2019, vlog number 107, and I hope everybody's had a good week. And I drank a little bit too much coffee on the weekend, so I'm trying to flush out my system. And so let's get started. Yeah, what have I been working on? Well, you saw this last week, but I finally finished it. It is my art quilt, and I've got it all bound and whatnot, and I think I didn't hang it up this morning because you saw it hanging up last week, but I thought you might want to look a little closer at the detail in my quilting that's on here. I can't see what I'm doing. I mean, it isn't perfect, but it's abstract. That's why I kept telling people in the class, this is abstract. So, you know, I'm pretty proud of it. You want to see the back? This is the back. I've had a lot of comments about the background fabric, and you have seen this before some time ago, probably about a year ago when I first got into quilting. This is fabric that I designed from the pages of my art journal. And I sent it to a place called Spoonflower. And I probably just hit my microphone. And they're an online company. Just put that in behind me. They're an online company that will basically make up fabric for you in whatever type of material you want. And they basically will print anything on the fabric. So I sent some of my scanned mixed media journals pages to them, my art journal pages. And that was one of them. And I've had a lot of nice comments about that fabric. People want to know where I got it. Then I tell them I made it, and it is available. If you go to Spoonflower and do a search, I guess under Bland Designs, I think that's what I put it under, you can actually see my other fabrics that I've manufactured, and you can buy it from them. Now, their fabrics run about $17.50 a yard, American. They're a little bit pricier than what I pay here in Canada for cotton fabric, but it is good quality. And they're a great company. They're very, you'll get it very quickly and whatnot. So if you're looking for something a little different, check out my designs on spoonflower.com. Okay, plug for myself. Yeah, to date, I've had nobody buy any of my fabric, so it's not like I'm going to be making millions on this. All right, moving on. That's one of the projects, and another project which Walter and I are both doing this, and I showed it yesterday on Stephen and Walter's Live. But this is my rug. Pull it out of the bag. I don't know if Walter's finished his or not. He was sewing all last night after I went to bed, but this is, it's starting. It's K-facet fabric, of course, which you know I love. And yeah, it's coming along pretty good, actually. I don't know if I'd ever make another one. I find them a little tedious. But, you know, I'm glad that I took the class now because I learned something new. So we'll just stuff this back in the bag. The bag also has the big ball, which I showed you yesterday, which is the big ball of, here we go, just pull this out. This is what makes it. Ooh, thread. My story of my life, I have threads everywhere in the house anymore. But anyways, that's all going to get made into what I just showed you eventually. It doesn't take that long. I've just been busy with other projects. Like, for example, the two other quilts that I'm working on right now that come from the classes. All my classes are done right now, with the exception of the dynamic quilt, and that's the one where I'm making all the half square triangles and cursing and swearing as I do so. So I've got some more of those to make, and I'm not going to get it done by the time the classes are over. I think there's after today, this morning I have a class at 10 o'clock, and next Monday is the last class. It will not be done by then. But then I'm going to a retreat for 4 days, and that's where I intend to try and get both of those quilts I took classes with Done. So I'll show those to you when they are. And speaking of half square triangles, which are a pain in the butt to make, actually they're not that hard, but it's the accuracy and it's the number. You really can't make a quilt unless you make half square triangles. Most patterns will call for them somewhere. This particular quilt has 320 for what they call block A, and block B has 160. So about 480 half square triangles. But I bought a program, and this is great. Now, if you're not a quilter, this will mean nothing to you. If you are a quilter, then you know what I'm talking about. This is a program for printing out basically patterns on paper, on copy paper, and you line this up with your fabric for cutting half square triangles. You sew it down. There's a procedure for sewing it, and then you cut it. There's another procedure for that, and you get perfect half square triangles every time in exactly the size that you need. And I love this. This was worth the money, I can tell you that. I probably overpaid for it because I ordered it from the place that manufactures it or carries it, and that's in Alaska. So between the exchange and to Canadian funds and the shipping costs on all this, it basically cost me around $70 Canadian. I did find out that there's a place not that far from me that supposedly sells these as well for about half that price. I didn't know that when I ordered it. So live and learn. But anyways, I love it. I'm glad I have it. This is a godsend. Okay, so that jumped ahead to what's new, because that's about the only thing I have to show you for what's new. So that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week. And actually, I don't have a channel. I have a playlist. This weekend coming, on Sunday, I'm doing my monthly art journal class. And this month's theme is to alter an object using your embellishments and mixed media techniques. Which means not doing something in your art journal, but taking something like an old book or a frame or a shoe or whatever you have, and altering it into something else using mixed media. So when I prep for my classes, I usually put together a one-page little blurb about what we're doing, some tips and tricks or steps for techniques and things, and I like to put in a little resource section. And since we're doing an altered object, I went on to YouTube to find some resources, and lo and behold, there are tons of playlists for altered objects. So this week, I'm actually featuring that playlist, and I explain to you in this little video clip why that is so. This week's YouTube channel is actually a YouTube playlist. I like looking at playlists under topic searches because they give me a wide variety of videos all in one place. Now, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be teaching a class on altered objects, where we're going to use mixed media techniques to alter an object like a frame, a box, whatever. So I looked up altered objects to see what kind of things people are doing, and this is an excellent resource. I have put a link in the show notes below for this particular list of altered objects, but there are many, many of them. The other thing that's very valuable when you look up any kind of playlist on YouTube is you may discover new YouTube channels that you didn't know existed before. So I like to do that as well. When I'm looking for something new, I will go to a playlist. So check out this playlist for altered objects, and you might also discover some new YouTube channels. And if you do, let me know what they are so I can check them out as well. So the link for that playlist is listed in the notes below, as is the latest edition of Stephen and Walter Live, which we did this past Sunday. We had a few more people on there this time, which was kind of good. I don't know if word's getting out there or what, or people just want to see what kind of nuts we are. But that's great. The more the merrier, I say. And then, of course, I've got the book of the week is listed. The link to that is below. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I have taken all of my little segments that I've been doing over the past 7 weeks in my vlog about album creation, and I have put those all together into one video So it's just extracted from the vlogs, and I call it album creation start to finish. And that you will find in my playlists on my channel site. But I've also given you a link to that in case you want to go back and look at that again, if you're interested. This week on the vlog, I will have the last installment, which is doing the cover on this vlog. But that's included in the specialized video for the process. Okay, so what's pissing me off this week? Well, I mentioned this yesterday, and I want to extend on it. This week I had 2 no-shows. What's a no-show, you may ask? That's when you have planned something, someone's supposed to arrive to do something or whatever, and then they just don't show up. And they don't leave you a message, they don't give you a phone call, they don't text you, nothing, you hear nothing from them, you're left hanging. So this happened to me twice this week. Once with my house cleaner. She comes every other Tuesday, and we like to clear out when she comes because we don't want to be under her feet when she's cleaning. So we usually plan that as a day to do some shopping, have lunch, that kind of thing. To be honest though, we never know exactly when she's going to show up. She sometimes comes by 10:30 in the morning, sometimes she doesn't get here till noon. So we never know. So we usually duck out of the house around 10:30, and lately I've had a class on Tuesdays, so Walter takes me to my class, he goes off, does some shopping, picks me up after my class is over, we go and have lunch. And then if there's some other shopping we need to do, we do it. But there are times when we really, you know, would rather be at home working on things that we work on at home because we don't really have any specific things to go shopping for or to do. But as I said, we don't like to be under her tail, so we plan for that. Well, this Tuesday, we got out of the house about 10:30, or no, earlier than that because my class started at about 10. Walter took me to my class, he went off to do some shopping, came back, picked me up, we went to lunch, and then we checked my email to see if she had arrived. My alarm system in the house, when it's turned on or turns off, sends me a text message to my phone. Plus we have cameras in the house. They're what we call our kitty cams, because when we had Cleo, when she was around and we'd go away, we had a couple of these cameras so we could just check in on her and things like that. Ironically, she always knew where the camera couldn't see, and that's where she'd usually go. But anyways, we still have those, even though we don't have Cleo anymore. And we just look to see, okay, is she getting close to finish? Can we come home now? So we were checking those. No messages on my phone that anybody had entered the house. Nobody's at the house. We checked again around 1. This is about 12:30. Check again around 1:30 after we'd had lunch. Still not showing up. And I'm thinking at this point, she's not going to show up. We checked remotely our voicemail messages on her phone. We still have a landline. Nope, no messages there. And she hadn't texted me or anything on my phone. So there we are. What do we do? And I'm getting a little PO'd about this because we plan our day around this, and now it's going on to 2 in the afternoon and she hasn't shown up. And she has done this to us before, not often. And I said to Walter, you want to know something? How much you want to bet she decided to go to Florida? I think her father lives in Florida, has a trailer there, and she goes this time of the year sometimes to get away. Well, that's fine. You know, I'm not upset if she wants to take a holiday. No problem. It's not like our house is going to be buried under a lot of dust because, you know, she missed a week. No, and that's fine. But all I ask is that you give me a call or, you know, tell me in advance, yeah, I'm going to go down to Florida for a week, so I'm going to miss doing your house cleaning, you know, on that date. And I go, great, fine, have a great trip. Everybody deserves to have a holiday. So not a problem. But nothing. Heard nothing from her. So I called her cell phone the next day. That was Tuesday. Wednesday, I called her cell phone. It's the phone she uses all the time. And I got her voicemail. And I said, hi, you know, you were supposed to come and clean our house yesterday. You didn't show up. I just hope that everything is okay. Let me know. Give me a call. You know, because I'm thinking, well, maybe an emergency happened. She does have 3 kids. One's pretty much an adult, but she has like 2 other kids that are much younger as well. And she's a single mom. And so I'm thinking, you know, maybe something happened, an emergency and everything. So, and she just couldn't you know, last thing was calling us on her mind. That's fine. Give her the benefit of the doubt. Didn't hear from her all week. Finally, on Sunday morning, I got a text message from her saying, I'm so sorry. My oldest son broke his hip in a snowmobile accident, and it's just been mayhem and chaos since then, and I'm in Panama, Florida. Okay, you don't snowmobile in Panama, Florida. So obviously this accident happened before she went to Florida. Well, what are you going to do with something like that? Okay, I'm sorry that your son had that and everything. You would think, though, you know, if she had the time between when her son had the accident and was probably in the hospital having his hip fixed or whatever they had to do, she still had time to get to Florida. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? If you have time to get on your flight and get to Florida when your son's in the hospital, I think you could spare 30 seconds to call our phone and say, hi, my son broke his hip. I'm in Florida. Sorry. Well, no, I didn't get this message until Sunday. So that's 5 days later after the fact. Okay, fine. Crap happens, right? It's not the end of the world for me and whatever. So I wrote back to her and says, I hope your son's okay, is doing all okay, and enjoy your holiday. We'll see you the next time you come. So there. But what pisses me off is, well, things in my life have happened too. And I know I wouldn't leave people hanging no matter what. I mean, yes, in the time, if it's an emotional thing or whatever, you're not thinking straight and that kind of thing. I get that, okay? But, you know, if once the initial hubbub settles down, I think then you can go, ooh, I better make this call or let this person know or whatever. I mean, I think that's just common courtesy, right? On top of that, I have a friend that comes over, and I said this yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live. We've been getting together every Thursday night for the last 15 years. He comes over, we have dinner together, and we go out, sit in the hot tub and drink some wine and catch up on things. Been doing this for 15 years. He doesn't show up. I've got dinner ready. That night, Walter goes to the gym. To be honest, Walter and this other friend of mine, they really kind of clash a little bit. So Walter usually vacates the premises if he's coming over. So I get dinner together for him and the whole bit. Well, he's supposed to be here for 6. It's 5 after 6, 10 after 6. Not unusual for him to be late. It's one of those kind of people. 6:30 rolls around. He's not there. That one's unusual. Checked my emails, checked my text messages, nothing. No indication. So I sent him a message, an email, saying, hi, it's 6:30. You're not here and dinner's ruined. Basically, let me know you're okay. Because I'm thinking, did you have a car accident on the way over? Are you sick? Are you in the hospital? What? You know, again, all these things go through your mind, right? Heard nothing from him either. Now, this is not the first time this has happened over the years either. It's rare, but it has happened before. He's a gamer, and he loves the video games, and he's also a nighthawk. It is not unusual for him to get his hands on a new game, video game, and stay up all night playing it. That's how much of a fanatic he is, or an enthusiast, maybe that's a better word to use, about video games. I could care less about video games. I don't know how to play them. I don't want to learn to play them. I'm not a game player, period. So I thought, oh yeah, he got a new game and he probably stayed up all night, and then he probably went to bed at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and because he's a nighthawk, he probably slept through the whole day and probably didn't wake up until 7 or 8 o'clock the next night. That has happened before. Not often, but it has happened. So, nothing. Well, I finally got a message from him 2 days later saying, oh, sorry, I forgot all about it. My bad. Huh? At that point, just lie to me. Tell me your car broke down or something. I mean, like, really, I forgot about it? Now, how does that make you feel as an individual? I mean, this is somebody I call a friend. And we've been doing this for 15 years, and he forgot. It's like, you forgot to, brush your teeth in the morning or something like that. Really? It's a routine. So there's a nasty part in me that would like to, on both of these cases, if I was an evil person and I have an evil imagination, I'd like to get back at these people, okay? Like, I'd like to suddenly trash my whole house so the next time my cleaning person shows up, she's got like her work cut out for her. Well, that would not be nice. I mean, she couldn't do anything about her son. That circumstances, life happens, right? So no, but that's the evil imagination in my head. And the other one for my friend is basically when he shows up and he's expecting dinner and say, oh, yeah, well, I've eaten. You're on your own. Kind of a thing. I would never do that. But sometimes, just to make yourself feel better, or at least for me, I have these evil imagination things, like if I could be a real creep, this is what I would do. So I won't. But anyways, that's just the kind of week it is. And I guess what bothers me about both of these incidences are not the incidents themselves, but it's the emotion they bring up in me. When I was a kid, okay, I wasn't a really popular kid, okay? I never was. Kids used to, when we played hide and seek, this is kind of sad when I think about it, we play hide and seek, and I'd be it. I'm the one that has to close my eyes and count. I'd never find them because they all went home. Yeah, left me there. Or they would run away from me and thought it was funny when we're playing like cowboys and Indians. I know that's not politically correct anymore. Cowboys, cow people, and indigenous people. I don't know. Do kids play that anymore? Probably not. It's not politically correct. But anyways, we did. It was the 60s. Okay? I got let down by people a lot in my early days. Okay? And I try not to think about those things and let them hold me back from social interaction. But occasionally when something like this happens, those old feelings come up. And I guess that's what really pisses me off, because they bring up bad memories for me. So get over yourself. Anyways, that's what I was pissed off about this week. About people who live in their own little world, okay, no matter what the circumstances, live in their own little world and forget that their actions, what they do, affect other people as well. And yeah, I've probably been guilty of not thinking about that, about my actions and how they affect other people either. But there's one thing I know I will never ever do, and never have done, is if I've made a commitment to somebody for whatever reason, I follow through with the commitment. And if I can't because of unforeseen circumstances, I will let the person know pronto that situation has changed and here's why, and I apologize. That's all I'm asking. Just some consideration. Is that too much? I don't know. In this day and age of Trump and Ford land, I guess that kind of stuff is old news, old-fashioned. Okay, off my soapbox, and let's move on. So, I already talked about the triangulation CD that for the half square triangles, so we can move on to Book of the Week. And again, from my collection, and this is for scrapbooking, since I've been doing sort of a theme about scrapbooking. This is called Montage Memories, Creating Altered Scrapbook Pages. And again, I was talking about altered objects. So this all fits into this week's theme. I don't usually have a theme, but I guess I have a theme this week. So this book is great. Now, at first glance in this book, it's going to look like it's about collage. And to an extent, montage and collage are kind of the same thing, except montage, and other people who maybe know more about this in the arting community can correct me on it. Montage is more of where you do something that's more of a controlled theme in collage techniques. It's not just slapping down things together and see what you get. It's you purposely are placing things and putting things together for an overall effect. And this book has a lot of great ideas. Now, it's geared towards people who are scrapbookers, but all these techniques would work for card making, would work for art journaling, for any mixed media pieces as well. And the pictures are good, the instructions are clear. It's a great book. It is published by memory makers that don't exist anymore. And I think that there's 2 authors for this, Erikia, Ghumm, and Pamela Frye, Hauer, I believe. Now, how much? Well, at the time, I know on the back of the book, it says Canadian $29.99, US was $19.99. I've had this for quite a while. So I looked it up on Amazon.ca, not Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, but I'm sure if it's on .ca, it's probably on .com. It's being listed brand new at $11.58 Canadian. That's pretty good. That's better than half price. But if you go to the used section, you can get it for as cheap as 85 cents. Again, there's always that elephant in the room called shipping and handling. I'm not sure what the shipping will cost. I think this one might have been listed as Prime. If you have Prime, then the shipping's free. And for the used ones, heaven only knows what they're charging for shipping. But it is a good book. So if you can get it at one of those prices and the shipping isn't too bad, I highly recommend it. So that's Montage, Memories, and I've put a link to Amazon where you can find it. Okay. So what's that take us to? Well, that takes us to my next video segment, which is scrapbooking number 7, I call it in my notes. I've moved away from the scrapbooking now, and what I'm doing with this series of videos is trying to show you my evolution as a crafter, as an artist, if you will. I hesitate in calling myself an artist because having been a volunteer at the art gallery and talking to those people who have, fine arts degrees and that, the stuff we do as crafters, and I've talked about this before, is not considered art by them. It is art. I'm sorry, it's art. If you create it, it's art. So yes, then I am an artist as well. But this week, I'm moving away from scrapbooking, and I'm talking about my evolution as a card maker. Now, I've said before, I am not a major card maker. I have made cards, as you'll see in this video clip, but I don't do that on a very regular basis. So, watch this. So, you've seen the evolution of my scrapbooking, and I mentioned about card making that I'm not really big into card making, but I have made cards before, and there is a bit of an evolution in that as well. So I have a few samples of cards that I've made from the past, and I'm just going to show you very quickly my evolution. Now, on the top one, I suppose the reason people make cards a lot of times is for special occasions, for birthdays, anniversaries, and of course at Christmas. And I know a lot of people like to make their own Christmas cards. Well, when I used to send out Christmas cards, because I don't send them out anymore except in electronic format because of the cost of postage and all that kind of a thing, I made my own kind of cards. Now, these are not very sophisticated, as you can see. I used a die cut. This one's a little worn. I think I got a little bit sophisticated here in the fact that I did some heat embossing of the snowflakes that are on this card as well. And I used a embossing plate. Probably at the time I made this, I had a cricket, not a cricket, but a Cuttlebug. That's what I'm talking about, Cuttlebug. I've since then have graduated into other machines, as you know. But so I did this kind of a thing, and I guess I was getting fancy in this one because I do have a three-dimensional. I think this is supposed to pop out. Yeah, it's gotten squashed in the box that I keep it in, but in its original format, there we go, it kind of popped out like this and had this little dangly in front of it. And, you know, cute, but a little primitive. But that's what I was doing. Now, I found that these were taking me a long time to do because I had quite a few to send out. And to be honest, a lot of people don't appreciate it when you make a handmade card. They usually end up in the garbage along with all the other store-bought cards that people get at Christmas time. So that's another reason why I stopped making them. If I do make a card for somebody now, for any occasion, it's usually a card that I make for someone that I know appreciates the time and effort and thought that went into making a handmade card. I did try other experiments though. This little Christmas card here that I made actually looks like a little file folder.
I think at the time I had gotten either one of the boards from We Are Memory Keepers, one of the punch boards that allowed me to do this or something, and I was experimenting with the different things I could do. Kind of cute, a little different in terms of a card, but again, not all that sophisticated. Of course, there's a company called Heartfelt Creations, which has beautiful papers, and they are known for their system for making flowers. It's an expensive system, but it's a very nice system. And of course, at that point in time, I guess I was into Heartfelt a little bit more, so I created this as a Christmas card. This has a little bit of a Christmassy flower poinsettia. Again, I think I did this. This is not embossed. I think this was actually foil or gold colored type metallic paper. And the thing about Heartfelt was in their paper packs they always have cutaways that you can use for your card making, and so that's where all of these things came from. Now, of course, the inside is blank on this one, but I guess I thought I was going to do an insert done on my computer for that. I did play around with different forms to make cards more dimensional, like this Valentine's kind of card that pops out, and I used the same technique with some rubber stamps that I colorized as well. Now these I probably, actually these I think were commercially bought, each one of these, but I scanned them. I think I scanned them from the packaging of the rubber stamps that I had bought, and then I had my Cricut cut them out, or it might have been my brother Scan and Cut, I can't remember. And then I did a little stamp inside here as well. Again, not all that sophisticated. Now, of course, Tim Holtz came out with his Crazy Birds, or whatever they were called, and everybody's making cards with those. So I made a couple of Halloween cards because I had bought the accessory kit that had the little hats and things like this, and I colorized them. I popped them up with some dimensional dots. I don't send out cards at Halloween, but I was doing this just to, you know, use the dies and the rubber stamps. The same with this one. And my background is some paper I bought, Halloween paper, that I used for that as well. Excuse me. This, I was experimenting with different types of paper on cards, and I did this stamp, which was a multicolored type of a technique. I think what I used was either inks in different spots, or I probably used the Tombow brush markers on this, because they work really well on rubber stamps, especially if you want to give sort of an ombre sort of effect, and that's what I had done here. And I did it on watercolor paper as well, just for a little bit of texture. Now I started to use more of my mixed media techniques on some cards later on, and this one, for example, these are die cut butterflies. They got flattened out in the box to keep them in, but made a little bit more dimensional. Die cut butterflies, I cut them out of probably jelly printed paper. That's what it looks like. And I had done these on sort of a heavier cardstock, and I also added a little bit of Winkostella to give them a bit of glitz. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. The background, though, I was playing around with just taking some of those jelly print papers and just tearing them and putting them down. And I think I did this as a workshop at our art gallery. There was a time when I was doing card making every other month or so for the volunteers, so they could create a set of cards that were donated to the art gallery, and the art gallery was using them as thank you cards for, you know, people who did special presentations or something for the art gallery. So we made a bunch of these, and this was one of the techniques. I did this over a period of about a year or so, did it, you know, every other month kind of a deal. And the idea was that the people who came, we made 4 cards using a certain technique that I taught them, and 3 of the cards they donated to the art gallery, and 1 of the cards they kept for themselves. So I think that's what this one came from. This was probably another art class as well, and basically it's using jelly print papers but cut into strips, randomly sized, and then adhered to the front of the card. And then I used one of Tim Holtz's paper dolls, because I think I had just gotten those at the time, to create this finished look. Now I was getting a little bit more sophisticated, and I was experimenting with alcohol inks and stencils on this particular card, and I was doing them on glossy paper and then mounting them, and I think that was a workshop that we did at the art gallery. The same with this one. This is all done with alcohol inks and rubber stamps, different techniques, and the butterfly is also done in alcohol inks too. So you can see they get a little bit more sophisticated. And I was even using and experimenting with the negative, well, the leftover from a die cut. So here I had cut out a couple of butterflies, but basically I cut the butterflies out of, probably this butterfly came from this paper, and I just mounted the negative space on top of another card that had some ink applied to it, another background, and it gave this effect. And again, I was experimenting a little bit more with alcohol ink and die cutting. That's where the feather comes, and then some rubber stamping in the background of this. So we did do some jelly printing to make cards at the art gallery in one of the workshops I've already mentioned. And so we made, several different prints and cut them up and used them as the front of cards. And they really liked doing this, and the effects are spectacular, and no two cards are the same. In another class, I think I taught them about different types of texture paste. I think this is a glass bead texture paste through a stencil, so it's got nice texture to it and a little bit of shine. And I also had bought at the time something called resist sprays, which basically sprayed through a stencil, and when they dried, they'd act as a resist, so you could create this kind of effect on a card. I know one of the techniques that I taught was the shaving cream method for making marbleized paper, which if you've never tried, there's tons of YouTube videos. I have one on my channel showing you how to do this. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit messy, but they had a great time in the workshop when I taught them this, and you get some spectacular results. And again, no two cards are the same. This I thought of doing as a workshop, but it's fairly involved. And it's a little tedious. This is iris folding, they call it. And you fold little strips of paper, and the way you lay them out give you a pattern. This is this wave effect. It's kind of effective. I find it just a little bit tedious though, because you're folding, a lot of really small strips of paper to get this effect. Now, I did make cards for friends, and I will never do this again in terms of like invitations. Friend of mine, very good friend, was getting married, and I hate making wedding invitations because the bride always wants a particular color, because her particular color scheme is always something that is impossible to match up exactly with the papers that are available. This particular bride, her dress was going to be blue. This was a second marriage for her, and she wanted the cards, the invitations, to be in blue to match her dress. Blue is a very difficult color to match up because, blue isn't just blue. There are shades of blue, a lot of them. And so I made her several prototypes, and that was also a bit of a pain in the butt because, you spend a long time trying to get the perfect card, and then you have to make multiples of them, and it's very time consuming, and it was part of the wedding gift for these people. And as I said, they were really good friends, are very good friends, and so that's why I went ahead and done it. But I have been approached by people before to make wedding invitations on a paid version, and I won't do it for any kind of money, for love or money. Again, it's just for me, I don't enjoy the process, and it's, you're making something for somebody else, then you want it to be perfect. And yeah, it's just too much of a hassle. But this was one idea that I had done. And this was another one. I think this might have been the one we decided upon. But mass producing these, you can see it's all embossed and the whole bit. Yeah, it's just not worth the time. Now, what I do now is I make sets of cards up based on my art journaling pages. And simply, I just scan my art journaling page, cut it up into pieces when I print it out, and mount it on a card back. And so I create these little sets of 4 that I give to my friends. I package them all up in, you know, this cellophane kind of thing. I guess I don't need to take that out. It's all right. Yeah, here we go. So I won't take them out of the package. I hope there's not too much of a glare, but this gives you an idea. What I like about doing these is this is my original artwork. No two are alike, and they make a nice gift. So I usually have a bunch of these on hand, all wrapped up with a bow around them, as you saw before, to give to friends when they come here for dinner or something like that. There's one group of friends that we get together on a regular basis for dinner, and they've come to expect a set of these, and they tell me, which I find very flattering, is that, yeah, they had run out of cards and they were glad they got some more of them because they do use them. They're just blank inside, so they can write whatever they want. But I package them up with an envelope that goes with them, and these make a really nice gift. And that's really where my card making has gone now. I'm making art journaling pages anyways, so you know, this is just one more format, another use for an art journal page. But if you scan it, you always have them at hand to print them out on photo glossy paper. That's what I usually do, and it doesn't take long to make these kind of cards, and as I said, they make a nice gift. So that's sort of my evolution in card making. And so in my next segment, I think I'm going to talk more about my evolution as an art journalist.
So next week, I'm going to move away from scrapbooking and card making, and I'm going to move more into my beginnings as an art journalist and into mixed media. And so that'll be next week's segment. We'll talk a little bit about art journaling, and I'll show you some of my very early beginnings in it and dabblings in it and where I went with that. So the next little segment is the last in my series on album creation, and it is done. Here it is. I have done the cover, and so this week's installment shows you how I put the cover together. So watch this. So the last step in finishing off this album is to do the cover page and the spine. Now I've done a little work already. On the spine, I simply added just this little sticker border that came with the paper collection, and I had a little bit of that left over, so I put it here on the edge of the clasp. Now I did have a little problem with the clasp. Remember, I used Velcro on this, and it was a little too weak. So I actually tore the paper on the inside of this. So I just took another piece of paper and I crazy glued it, or Gorilla glued it. I'm using this kind of glue. This is an excellent glue. I'll just give you a close-up for putting on 3D embellishments, whether they be metal, glass, plastic, whatever. It sticks everything. It's excellent, and it dries in seconds. So I just reinforced this, and I stuck the one half of the Velcro onto this, and that should be good enough for this album. So now I want to decorate the cover. So I went through my paper pack and I cut out a few elements that were already there, and I went through some of my metal embellishments as well and grabbed those, and I'm just basically going to do a sort of a collage. Now I liked the title of this paper collection, which was called Communique. However, this piece in a solid piece is way too big for the journal, so I've simply just cut it in half, and I'm going to mount it like this. Now to make it stand out from the background paper, I am going to ink the edges of it, and you've seen me do this before throughout this album, and I just like doing this because it just adds a shadow effect and makes whatever you're putting down stand out a little bit. So I'm going to place this first on the album cover. Now you might say, well, yeah, but people aren't going to be able to read this or know what it means. You want to know something? That doesn't matter. I'm using it more as a decorative element than actually something that is to be read. And, you know, it might make it kind of interesting as I try to figure out exactly what it says. So I'm going to stick this down now, and I am going to use my Gorilla Glue for this because this is the cover of the album. It will get handled, and I want to make sure nothing drops
off it, and this will make sure of that. So I'm just getting it close to the edges so the edges don't curl up. And I'm just going to eyeball it here to give it a little bit of a border from the background paper. And I'm going to do the same with this piece, but I'm going to put it long ways on it. As I said, this glue is excellent, and you get it pretty much anywhere. You can get it in Walmart. I think that's where I bought it. Michael's has it, I think. There are different types of Gorilla Glue you can buy, but this is the one I find works really well with paper crafting, and it doesn't seem to warp the paper. At least I have found that using it on this project it hasn't. And I'm just going to butt that up to the edge of that and down, trying to keep it as straight in relationship to the paper as I can. Okay, so now I've got that down. Now I cut out a few other embellishments here as well, and I think I'm just going to layer these, and I'm going to pop some of the elements up as I layer them because I want to give it a bit of a dimensional look. Now, when you do something that's going to be popped up, you want to make sure that it's well secured because, again, because it's raised from the cover, it can get caught on things when people are handling it and tear it off. And I'm just slightly overlapping it on my words again. It's always a good idea when you do collage to have collage touch other pieces as well, so they're not just floating out in space. Now I have this piece which I think I'm going to pop up, so I've got some dimensional squares here. And I'm just going to put one on each corner. Getting shot here, and one in the center to give it support. Now I'm going to peel off the backing on these, but I am not going to rely upon the stickiness of these. Now these ones are by 3M and they are very, very sticky. But again, because it's on the cover of an album, I want to make sure they do not have any chance whatsoever of loosening or falling off. So all I'm going to do is, with that backing paper off, I'm just going to put a dot of the Gorilla Glue in the center of each one of these, and this will just make sure it's very well adhered. And again, I'm going to do a little bit of overlap, and there. Now, I did use some of the wood chip elements that came with the paper pack, and I've already gone around these in ink to highlight them. I didn't do it on these two pieces because if you notice there's already a dark border around those because I cut them out of the paper pack, leaving that border on there. And I think this one I'm just going to go off to the side here, maybe just about down here. Now I think I'm going to reinforce it with one dimensional dot or square at the bottom, because this already is raising it, but I think it needs the extra lift at the end. And again, let's put some Gorilla Glue on here. And let's see, oops, that was close. I want to put a little along this edge. We're just going to touch this other element. Just hold it there for a couple of seconds so it gets grip. And there we go. And I add the little ribbon just for another dimensional effect. And now, I have this, which I pulled out of my supplies. And I'm thinking I have a problem. I want to put the word journal that came out of the sticker sheet that came with the paper supply underneath this. And but I've got this edge right here, so I'm not sure, unless I go, no, I think I want it flat. Now I've got a problem. Not good planning on my part. If I tuck it under this, can I get it under this? Well, I can have it hang out a little bit. That might not be a problem. See, I want it to go flat. And I don't have any dimensional dots that are going to raise that up. Or can I? Maybe I can. If I put one right there and put another one here. Now, just before I peel off the paper. Yes, that would work. But now I've got to figure out where to put my little sticker. So, just eyeballing this. That can sit there. It says journal. And this will fit right there. Good. Okay. Now this is a heavier embellishment, and I probably should have put some of the Gorilla Glue underneath these little tabs before I affix them to the piece of metal. But I didn't, so I'm hoping they'll hold okay. Just made it. Okay. Now, I have these little corner pieces, which I think will just fancy up the edge of the album. So I'm just going to add some Gorilla Glue from this. This stuff is excellent on metal. If I get it out of the bottle. Now these come from Tim Holtz, and I really like them. Okay, one problem I didn't think of, I will have to crimp these. So let me get this holding on here first of all. And then all you have to do is bend these flaps in. Now I did put some Gorilla Glue on those as well for extra security. But simple as that. And I have another one here. Hoping this is going to fit down here without any problem. Yep, it will. Again, I should have planned that out a little better in terms of spacing, but it'll work. And I'm all thumbs. Okay. There we have that. So they just add a nice little touch to the outside of the album. Now, I'm still concerned. This is kind of plain. Just get this, actually before I do this, no, I'll do this first. I will adhere it. It's already stuck down, I mean just lining it up. Okay. And I think I'm going to add this little wood chip embellishment to this. Just again, it will reinforce the tab, and at the same time, it adds another decorative element to it. I've already gone around the edges of this with some of the Stays On ink, and I'm just going to adhere it with the Gorilla Glue again. Love me a little Gorilla Glue. It's great stuff. I would have much rather preferred to have used a magnet, but instead of the Velcro, speak English, okay, Velcro, rather than, or used a magnet over that, because the magnets work really well, but I didn't have any that were strong enough. See, I could have buried the magnet underneath the background paper and you'd never see it, but I didn't have any that were strong enough. But in the future, you might want to invest in some of those. And I'm just noticing this one end is coming up, so I'll see if I can put a little more Gorilla Glue on that. And I've got a little bit of overflow here, so I'm just going to try and peel that off. And there we go. And there we have it. And my album is now complete. Now, could you add more embellishments? Yes, you could. Could I do more with the spine? Yes, I could. I could put a couple of these on the back of it as well, and that might finish it up very nicely. In fact, do I want to do that? No, I'm not going to do that right now. But there you have it. So, handmade album, great for a gift, for somebody, great for yourself, whatever. It will look very nice on a coffee table. People will wonder where you got it, and when you tell them you made it, you will be the hit of the evening, I can tell you that. So, I hope you enjoyed this series on making this album, and in future vlogs, I'll do some other creative things.
So I hope you enjoyed that series. I enjoyed making it. It took me back to my roots, basically. I love making albums, and I've kind of haven't done that for quite a while, so that was a great opportunity to do something like that. So I'm thinking now, what shall I do next? Because I want to do something else. So I might move into card making, but using a system that's developed by a company called Heartfelt Creations. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do next. So stay tuned for next week's vlog to see what I do. All right, so what events have been happening last week? Well, I've already talked about sewing classes. I was taking 4, 3 of them are now done. I just have the one left, which is the one where I make all the half square triangles. I have not shown you anything about that one yet because right now it's in 1,000 little pieces. But I think I did show you the 2 blocks. But I'm trying to get wise about this. So now I'm creating like little mini kits. I have all the pieces that will make 1 block in a bag, and it's marked. So that's what I've been working on. It is a very complicated quilt, not because it's hard. It's complicated because there's so many little pieces, and it's easy to lose pieces in amongst all your other fabric and things. So this, I'm trying to get it organized so I can be more efficient with it. And also it's going to make it easier when I go on the retreat, because I'll just pull out my little baggie, do the block from the baggie, pull the next one out, do the next block, that kind of thing. At least that's my theory. So the next session of classes won't happen until the spring. And I think the open house, when you sign up for them, happens just after we get back from Australia. So I'll see. I'm really going to try and not do what I did last time and take so many classes that all fall within the same time period, because I found that I wasn't really accomplishing a lot when I did it. I say I'm going to try to do that, but knowing me, there'll be several classes that'll catch my eye and I'll go, oh yeah, I got to do that, I got to do that. And I'll probably do the same thing to myself again. Who knows? I'm my own worst enemy. What else? Mum update. Well, I talked about this extensively yesterday, so I don't need to bore you to tears with it. She's doing okay. She had a urinary tract infection this past week. She had told me earlier in the week that she'd been in bed and she was not feeling well, and she couldn't really tell me how she felt though. But I did find out she had a mild urinary tract infection. They fixed that up for her and whatnot. And one of the problems is I don't think my mother drinks enough. From what I've read about urinary tract infections, one of the causes of those could be from dehydration. Now, I know they watch her very carefully, But my mother can be very stubborn if she doesn't want something. And I can never figure out what goes through her head when it comes to food and drink. Ironically, I talked to her the latter part of the week, and while I was on the phone, I guess they came in with the snack cart and offered her, I think they had some cookies. And I hear my mother likes her sweets. And I heard her say, oh, cookies, okay, what kind are they? And I think they were maple flavor or something like that. And I just, well, yeah, she'd have a couple of those, but she didn't want anything to drink. Well, when I heard her say that to the nurse, I kind of got a little, not upset, but I got a little concerned. And I said, Mom, you know that one of the reasons why you can have a urinary tract infection is because you're not drinking enough. And I said, I know that you probably hold back because you don't want to have to ring the bell to get the nurse to help you into the bathroom all the time. She says, well, it takes them forever to get there. Well, yeah, they're busy, okay, but they don't neglect her, okay? I've been there when people need to go to the washroom, and they're pretty good. They're pretty quick, you know, with it. And I said, but Mom, what's the alternative? I said, do you want to go through, you know, the discomfort of a urinary tract infection? She says, well, I didn't have any pain. And I said, well, sometimes you don't, Mom, I guess. I mean, I've never had one, so I'm not really sure about it, but I did some reading. And Walter's mother, she used to get them on a regular basis when she was in the nursing home, but she had dementia. And Walter always knew when she was had a urinary tract infection because she just went loopier than usual with the dementia, because it affects you that way. So anyways, I guess they gave my mother something for it, and they're feeding her cranberry juice, which is supposed to be good for that kind of thing, so I hear. So hopefully now, I haven't talked to her since Friday, so I'll give her a call later today and probably go over there tomorrow to visit her, and I'm hoping things have cleared up and she's fine. She also was complaining because apparently her wheelchair broke. Now, this is a $10,000 wheelchair, okay? It's custom to her. I said, what do you mean broke? Like, wheels go flying off? What are we doing? Drag racing down a hall kind of thing? Well, I guess they pushed her into the elevator to take her down to dinner or something, and one of the attendants noticed that there was some bolts coming out of it. So they put her in one of their house wheelchairs, which are really crappy. They're very, very, very basic wheelchairs, and took off to be fixed. Well, it's taken them a couple of days to fix it. And all my mother's done is complain about this other wheelchair. Well, yeah, I get it. She was used to the comfort of her customized wheelchair. This other chair looks like a little torture chamber, or torture chair. So yeah, I get it. But you know, it's always something. Like, what's her name? Gilda Radner used to say in Saturday Night Live back in the 70s as Rosanna Dana, if you remember who I'm talking about. She'd always go, you know, it's always something. Well, with my mother, it's always something. So I also kind of wondered about when she said she wasn't feeling that well, whether this was a sympathy thing, because my sister just went off to Puerto Vallarta for 2 weeks. And anytime any of us go away on a holiday, my mother tries to put a little guilt on the one that stays behind or hasn't gone away. She does this. She's good at it. And so I wondered if it had something to do with that. But actually, it was legit. She had a urinary tract infection. So there you go. What can I say? So she's, for the most part, she's doing fine. All right. Okay. So what's coming up? Okay. Next Sunday, Stephen and Walter Live will be on 1 hour later. So instead of at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it will be 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's the date of my monthly art journaling class that I teach. And so I don't get home until 4 o'clock. So we're going an hour later. So the art journaling class is coming up, and that's where we're doing, as I've already mentioned, the what I call altered objects. And I'll have to remember to do some video or take some pictures of what people are creating, because this group is extremely creative, love to experiment, and I think I could have some really neat stuff to show you out of that art journaling class. What am I going to do? I have no idea. I got to start thinking about this. What am I going to work on? I have a couple of ideas in the back of my head, but we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, so that's this Sunday coming up. Anything else to tell you about? No, nothing. I hope you've enjoyed my little segments on my evolution of scrapbooking that I'm still continuing, and I hope you enjoyed the segment about the art journal or the album creation, and I'll have something new, a new series starting next vlog. Okay, so that's it for me today. I've got to get ready for my sewing class, and I'm sure you got to get ready for the week. So I hope you have a good one. We'll see you Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Stephen and Walter Live, and we'll see you next week on the vlog. Bye-bye for now.